going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to 32 NFL offseasons in 32 days. Yesterday, we talked about the San Francisco 49ers. Today, day number 29, let's talk about their direct competitor for that division, in my opinion, the Seattle Seahawks. I would like to start this episode off with an apology to the Seahawks and to their fans. I absolutely roasted them last year. If you watched our first podcast when we made our first ever division predictions, I was very blunt about how badly I thought they would be. I claimed with a high level of certainty that they would be terrible and that they would be contending for the number one overall pick. I am not a hard-headed individual. I can admit when I am wrong, and holy cow, I was way off on the Seattle Seahawks, you guys. Way off. I did not think that Geno Smith had that in him, and I will happily raise my hand and say, Geno, I had written you off. I don't blame you for not writing me back, my friend. Well done last year. What a season he had for them, leading them to a playoff berth in a year where they were pegged to be bottom feeders by everybody, In my defense, everybody had them being bad last year. Like, many thought Drew Lock would win that starting position out of camp. Geno Smith won the position and led them to a playoff berth at the end of the day. That's impressive. That all being said, they still got steamrolled by the 49ers in the playoffs, 41-23, losing to them all three times throughout the course of the season. And before the playoff game, it was a negative 28 scoring differential. So they lost by an average of 2 touchdowns the first 2 games and then lost by 18 points in the playoff game. So the 49ers aren't going anywhere, Seahawks. Have you guys done enough to close that gap? Let's talk about it. Key additions. First of all, this is not an addition, but I just want to mention and say that I do love that they gave Geno Smith the extension that he got. He earned that for sure. Good for them for locking him down instead of taking their chances on a cheap Drew Lock or whatever else was out there in free agency. They said, all right, we believe in you. We need you to do it again, but we believe in you, and we believe that this year was not a fluke. I like to see that out of a front office. I also love the addition of Draymond Jones to their defensive line. Only 26 years old, coming off of a 6.5 sack season. I think he's going to be a very solid piece for their defensive line for the next several seasons. I'm also a big fan of them bringing in Julian Love at safety. Also, a young player, only 25 years old. He'll have a chance to work with some serious talent in that DB room. That safety room has some guys in it. That whole DB room has some guys in it, and we'll obviously talk about that as we go. I love that they brought back Bobby Wagner for a bit of reunion at middle linebacker. And I also love that they brought in young Devin Bush at linebacker. They've got 3 middle linebackers, I think, that could all play significant roles this year in Bobby Wagner, Devin Bush, and Jordan Brooks. That's 3 really good interior linebackers for the foreseeable future. Bobby Wagner's getting up there in age, so Jordan Brooks and Devin Bush, I feel like we're looking at the 2 middle linebackers for Seattle for the next 5-6 years at least. So some serious additions were made this offseason. Let's talk about some losses. And actually, there aren't any. I don't have a single key loss written down for the Seahawks this offseason. They have kept their players in-house, and they brought in a ton of talent. They let, Travis Homer go, the running back, but they replaced him, and I don't even count Travis Homer as a key loss or anything, so I'm just mentioning players like, go look at the free agents and the ones that they lost, and go look at Spot Track, who I'm getting all this information from. There's nothing on there that makes me go, ooh, that will hurt. Nothing at all. So no key losses for them in my opinion. So solid free agency class, minimal losses, love it. Now, what else have they done? Let's talk about their draft. I did not expect them to take Devin Witherspoon at number 5, but the more I think about it and the more I look at it, I absolutely love that pick for them. Think about when the Seattle Seahawks were playing their best football, playing late in the season. They had the Legion of Boom. I think they're trying to recreate that. And look at these pieces that they have. Tariq Woolen, Devin Witherspoon, Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs, and Julian Love. That's 5 good defensive backs. And I'm sure I'm missing a few, too, that I just didn't feel like naming because 5 was plenty. That is a pretty damn good secondary right there, and there's more, too. They have depth, and they have some top-tier talent. So I love that pick of Witherspoon for them. You now have 2 stud corners to lock down the other team's best receivers. With their second first-round pick at pick number 20, they made another fantastic pick, taking the best wide receiver in the class in Jackson Smith-Njigba. Absolute monster in the slot. He is going to feast underneath this season while DK and Lockett stretch the defenses. Honestly, those 3 receivers in DK, Tyler Lockett, and now JSN, that's one of the best trios of wide receivers in the entire NFL. And by the end of the year, we might be having the conversation of that being the best trio in the NFL. I absolutely love that pick. It's just making a strength even stronger. I'm a big fan of that. Great first round by them. And then in the second round, with their first pick of the second round, I do like the addition of Derek Hall, outside linebacker out of Auburn. Kind of one of the most underrated edge rushers in this draft class, in my opinion. He, in the last 2 seasons at Auburn, put up 15 and a half sacks and 24 TFLs. That's incredible production, especially in the SEC. When you look at how many offensive linemen from the SEC are first-round talents, he was bossing them. 15 and a half sacks, that's very solid. I expect him to see him playing some meaningful snaps early on, and I think he might be a menace for them. And then with their other second-round pick, initially I was a little bit confused by the pick of running back Zach Charbonnet out of UCLA. Not because he isn't a stud, because over the last 2 seasons at UCLA, he put up 2,500 rushing yards and 27 touchdowns. That's crazy, averaging 1,250 rushing yards a season and, 13 and a half touchdowns. Those are awesome numbers. I do like him. The more I've looked at it, I like him as an insurance policy for Kenneth Walker III. He has missed some time with injuries, missed some last year. This way, they're covering themselves in case of an injury, and they've got a stud backup ready to go. I know a lot of people were hurt about it if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football, because it's like, no, this guy could be a starter somewhere, and he's going to sit behind Kenneth Walker. I think he's going to get plenty of touches, and just in case something happens to Kenneth Walker, then he'll be a stud. He'll absolutely be a stud for them. Their first 4 picks of this draft are absolutely fantastic. I like the strengthening of a strength. Hey, they crushed the draft last year in getting Tariq Woolen in the 5th round. All right, let's give the 5th overall pick and bring in another stud corner. Devin Witherspoon was awesome for Illinois this year. And then they brought in Jackson Smith and Jigba, who, did they need a wide receiver? Maybe not, but at 20, the value is so hard to pass up there, and I think he is going to be a monster for them, man. You gave Geno Smith that big extension, give him a shiny new toy to play with, and that offense could take off. Great draft from Seattle. I give them an A for this draft class. This offseason has been all about catching up to the 49ers, in my opinion. And while I still think San Francisco is a little bit better than them at this point in time, I think that gap has closed by a significant amount. The Niners went 13-4 and the Seahawks went 9-8 last year. I could very easily see the Seahawks winning 11 games this year and really pushing them. Love what they've done this offseason. A great draft class, a very solid free agency, and really no key losses. I'm going to give their offseason an A as well. So an A draft and an A offseason, and this team went 9-8 last year. They've only improved. I fully expect to see them back in the playoffs this year, unless Geno Smith turns into a pumpkin and goes back to old Geno Smith, which I'm hoping doesn't happen, because the football they were playing was entertaining. They were a fun team to watch. I mean, anything short of the playoffs for Seattle would be an absolute disaster for them, because they've really set themselves up, and they're going to rely on Geno to do it again, and I hope he does for them. I think they're going to be super exciting, and I can't wait to watch some Seattle Seahawks games this year. So that's all I've got for you guys on the Seattle Seahawks offseason. We will be back at it tomorrow with day number 30 of 32 NFL offseasons in 32 days.